Okay, so today I want to talk about a fundamental flaw with the Edmonton Oilers. One of the most common refrains you'll hear from people is, how is it that with all these high-end draft picks, these highly skilled young players, do the Oilers still find themselves at the bottom of the standings? It's obviously not a question of talent, and this season I certainly don't think there's a lack of players that are hungry to win. And the defense, even though it comes under a ton of criticism, and rightfully so, is probably the strongest defense core they've iced in a few years, especially when Oscar Klefbom is healthy. So why is it that the Oilers once again lead the league in games lost in regulation? Is there an underlying reason? Well, let me tell you about a team that I played for a few years ago. This was in the local ball hockey league. Now, physical fitness was not a prerequisite to play on this team. A lot of the guys were out of shape, and some of them were just downright fat. We also didn't have a ton of highly skilled players. So it should come as no surprise that with this bunch of goofballs, our team was named the Misfits. But here's the thing. Despite being the second most talented team most nights, we would come away with 2 points. And we did it by playing a meat and potatoes style of hockey. We would get the ball to the net with traffic in front. I can't count how many goals we scored off screens, deflections, and rebounds. But that's how we did it. It was rarely pretty. But when the game ended, more often than not, we had more goals than the other guys did. Now, let's look at the Oilers' goals from last night's game.
Former draft pick of the Minnesota Wild into chance for McDavid. He scores as Pouliot set him up.
Wow, that was pretty nice.
Yuri Korpikoski. Yakupov snaps a shot and he scores. Yakupov.
Way to go, Yakupov. Also, a very nice goal. But who won the game last night? This is the number one reason why the Oilers have lost so many games this year and find themselves at the bottom of the standings. They simply do not score enough ugly goals because they have way too many finesse players. Now, I know that in the media, some of these guys have been labeled as soft skill. That's not the problem. It has nothing to do with heart or character or grit. It's that they play a finesse game. They're always looking to make nice plays rather than simple ones. There's nothing wrong with these players. That's just the way they think the game. And since the Oilers have an overabundance of this type of player, you wind up with one of two things happening. Either a bunch of players just circling around on the perimeter looking for a wide open scoring chance and nobody goes to the net, or you have players who always shoot to score. So you have a ton of pucks going high or wide of the net because they're always trying to pick the corners. I use much more colorful language than this when I'm at home watching the game by myself, but you don't need to score on the initial shot. Why do you think the Oilers had 74 shot attempts last night and only scored twice? You know, I've talked a lot this season about how the Oilers just don't get the bounces very often. And it's true. But they don't get the bounces because they don't fling the puck at the net and let luck take over. It's their own doing. And like I said, this is no fault of these players. It's the way they think and process the game and the way they play. Edmonton just has too much of the same thing. They do not have enough players who instinctively throw pucks in the goalie's feet or stand at the edge of the crease. I know this is probably difficult for some fans to hear because we tend to get emotionally attached to players, but the only way the Oilers solve this issue is through trade. They don't need another Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid, or Austin Matthews. Now, I'm not singling out any player that needs to be traded. Peter Chiarelli just needs to change the dynamic of the hockey team. I'll see you next week.